So, get this. You're going about your day, maybe worrying about your Wi-Fi connection or whether you left the stove on, and then, boom! A court in Canada decides that the two biggest political parties in Nigeria are basically terrorist groups. I'm not even joking. This all started with a Nigerian citizen, a man named Douglas Egarevba, who was trying to get asylum in Canada. He had been a member of both the People's Democratic Party, or PDP, and later the All Progressives Congress, or APC. You know, the two political giants that have been running the show in Nigeria for decades. It seems like a pretty standard political journey for someone involved in that world. But here's where it gets wild. The Canadian immigration authorities looked at his application and said, "Hold on a minute. These parties you were part of, we have some notes." The case ended up in Canada's federal court, and on June 17, 2025, Justice Pwongo made a ruling that sent shockwaves all the way from Ottawa to Abuja. The judge didn't just deny the asylum claim, they upheld a lower decision that effectively put a terrorist organization sticker on both the APC and the PDP. It's kind of like finding out your local Democrats and Republicans were just declared a global threat by Switzerland. It's a huge, huge deal. Now, this wasn't some random judge waking up on the wrong side of the bed and deciding to spice up international law. The decision was rooted in Canada's own Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, or IRPA for short. This law has some very specific and honestly very strict rules about who gets to come into the country. The Canadian Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness presented a case arguing that both parties had a history of engaging in activities that, under Canadian law, fall under the umbrella of terrorism or subverting democracy. It's a legal minefield, and Mr. Egarevba walked right into it. The whole situation is a perfect example of how one person's quest for a new life can accidentally ignite a massive diplomatic firestorm. Mr. Egarevba probably just wanted safety and a new start, but his case became the stage for a judgment with enormous implications. He was just a guy who had joined the mainstream political parties in his home country, a common practice for many Nigerians. But in the eyes of this Canadian court, that membership was enough to link him to organizations that they believe have used violence and intimidation as political tools, making him ineligible for refuge in their country. So, what exactly did the Canadian court see that made them use the T word? It wasn't about one single event. The court looked at a pattern of behavior over the years. According to their reasoning, these parties have been involved in a little more than just printing campaign posters and holding rallies. The Canadian authorities pointed to specific instances of political violence, intimidation of opponents, and even electoral fraud that have plagued Nigerian elections for years. They argued that this wasn't just a few bad apples, it was a systemic problem baked into the party's operations to gain and maintain power. The legal basis for this is fascinating and, frankly, a bit terrifying. Under Canada's IRPA, you don't even have to have personally thrown a punch or stuffed a ballot box to be considered inadmissible. The law, specifically paragraph 34(1)(f), states that just being a member of an organization that is believed to have engaged in terrorism or the subversion of democracy is enough to get you barred. So for the court, Mr. Egarevba's membership card was as good as a confession. The judge essentially said that if the club has a history of violence, it doesn't matter if you were just there for the free snacks. The court cited some pretty serious accusations to back up its claim. They brought up historical incidents, like allegations against the PDP for their role in ballot stuffing, and even political killings during the turbulent elections of 2003 and 2004. The argument was that the parties, as institutions, either orchestrated or turned a blind eye to violence committed in their name to secure victory. It's a powerful accusation that paints a picture of Nigerian democracy not as a peaceful process, but as a battlefield where political parties are the warring factions, and the prize is control of the state. This paints a grim picture, suggesting that political power in Nigeria has often been won through force and fear, not just votes. The Canadian court's perspective is that when a political party consistently uses violence to achieve its goals, it stops being just a political party and starts looking like something much more sinister. The ruling implies that the line between political strategy and organized violence has become so blurred within the APC and PDP that from Canada's legal standpoint, there's no longer a meaningful distinction. It's a stunning verdict that challenges the very legitimacy of Nigeria's political system. As you can imagine, Nigeria did not take this news well. The Nigerian government came out swinging, officially rejecting the entire ruling. They called it unacceptable, baseless, and lacking in merit. In a statement, they made it clear that the APC and PDP are legitimate, legally registered political parties that are fundamental to the country's democratic process. You can almost hear the diplomatic phone calls. "Hello, Canada. Yes, it's Nigeria. We need to talk about you calling our ruling party a bunch of terrorists." It's not a good look. The government is now engaging with Canadian authorities to, as they put it, correct the record. The political parties themselves were even more direct. The APC's National Secretary, Senator Ajibola Basiru, basically called the Canadian judge an ignoramus. He argued quite forcefully that a court in Canada has absolutely no business or jurisdiction deciding the status of a Nigerian political party. He said the APC doesn't need validation from a foreign court and blasted the decision as being delivered from a jaundiced perspective. He also had some choice words for what he called desperate and unpatriotic Nigerians who use the asylum system to tarnish the country's image abroad. The PDP was on the same page, though maybe with slightly less name-calling. They described the ruling as misinformed, biased, and lacking evidence. The party's deputy national youth leader, Timothy Osodolor, made a very important distinction. He argued that while you might find some individuals in government who have connections to shady dealings, you cannot and should not label the entire party structure as a terrorist organization. He warned that this kind of ruling sets a dangerous precedent, not just for Nigeria, but for any democracy where political competition gets a little messy. So, the united front from Nigeria is clear. Canada got this one spectacularly wrong. Both parties, who are usually at each other's throats, found common ground in their outrage. They see this not as a legitimate legal finding, but as an insult born from a misunderstanding of Nigeria's complex political landscape. Their stance is that political violence is a challenge they are working to overcome, not a defining feature of their identity. They believe this ruling unfairly maligns millions of ordinary party members and the entire democratic framework of Africa's most populous nation. This story is much bigger than one court case. It has serious real-world consequences. For starters, think about any Nigerian with political affiliations who wants to travel, study, or move to Canada. This ruling could put them under a microscope. Former Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation spokesperson Olufemi Soneye warned that this could lead to a wave of visa denials and rejected asylum claims, not just in Canada but potentially in other Western countries that might follow its lead. Suddenly, being a member of a mainstream political party could become a massive liability on the international stage. The implications for genuine asylum seekers are also deeply concerning. People who are actually fleeing political violence in Nigeria might now find it harder to make their case. Imagine trying to explain that you're running from political persecution, only for the immigration officer to point out that you were once a member of a party their own country has labeled a terrorist group. It creates a confusing and potentially unjust situation where the victims of political violence could be punished for the very system they are trying to escape. This ruling could inadvertently close the door on people who need protection the most. Beyond immigration, this ruling is a direct hit to Nigeria's international reputation and its democratic identity. When a respected G7 nation like Canada officially designates your ruling and opposition parties as terrorist entities, it damages your credibility. It provides ammunition for critics and could be used to justify sanctions or other diplomatic pressures. Internally, it could even be exploited to suppress political opposition, with rivals using the terrorist label to delegitimize each other in a dangerous escalation of political rhetoric. It's a messy, complicated situation with no easy answers. Ultimately, this story is a powerful reminder of the clash between national laws and international politics. It highlights the fragile nature of democracy and how actions in one country can have profound effects in another. For Nigeria, it's a harsh critique of its political culture and a wake-up call to address the violence that has too often marred its elections. For Canada and the world, it raises tough questions about how we define terrorism and who gets to make that call. This isn't just a legal curiosity, it's a turning point that will shape diplomacy, immigration, and the fight for democracy for years to come.
This is actually a very good news for Biafrans. Let me tell you, few years ago, the indigenous people of Biafra was actually proscribed by the Zoo government. You know, a proscription that even the world, other international communities, even the UK government failed to proscribe, the indigenous people of Biafra, because the organization is only fighting for the freedom of their people. But in order for the Zoo government to achieve their evil purpose against Nnamdi Kanu and against innocent Biafrans, so that they can continue their genocidal attack and the WAR that we are currently seeing in Biafran land, what they did was to proscribe the indigenous people of Biafra as a T organization, as a terrorist organization. Now, the reverse is now the case, because their major political party is now being seen as a terrorist organization. That shows that the current president of the Zoological Republic of Nigeria, that is in the person of Jagaban, is actually part of this so-called T. In fact, this matter is actually going to be a very long one, because as it stands, the Zoo government are beginning to react over and over again concerning this issue. But the reality is that a court as competent as a court in Canada, they don't just rule. They don't rule and give judgment, because of their own interests. They check and weigh things because they have a system that is actually working. And this whole thing is going to affect, every political person, who is within the so-called PDP and the APC. In fact, come to think of it, these people have continually shown that they are T, in quote, T, because of their activities. We've seen different genocidal attacks by these people. We've seen different kinds of annihilations. Go to Biafran land and say what is happening. Go to Biafran land. I've said it over and over again, repeatedly on my channel, that these whole atrocities that is being committed in Biafran land is being seen by international communities, is being seen by the world. The fact that they are not doing much about it is because of great country like the so-called UK, Great Britain, are actually involved in making sure that these countries keep quiet, and don't say much about it. But we thank God, for what the United States are beginning to do. They've started coming in directly by actually, first of all, calling out these organizations, these T's, that have been annihilating and unaliving innocent Christians in Biafran land. We'll give you more detail on this issue as the matter continues to unfold in court. But meanwhile, let us go into other critical issue that is happening currently in Biafran land. Enjoy this video and make sure you share to as many groups and platforms as possible.
Breaking news. Again, gunmen invade Imo State community, shot sporadically and wreak havoc in the area. Hear the news in details. Wonderful people of Biafra, lovers of freedom all over the world, you are welcome once again to Biafra Unite channel /television this very moment. Today's date is 23rd of July 2025, and I have breaking information for every one of you listening to my voice right now from wherever you are all over the world. Dear friends and lovers of freedom, I want you to pay very good attention to this very news, because it's very, very important. I can assure you, my people. The information that has landed on my news desk has it that gunmen have once again invaded Imo community and wreaked havoc in the area. Listen, there is difference between invasion of a community and kidnapping people or someone in an area. I want every other person to pay very close attention to what is going on. Remember, I told you one thing, that you must ask for evidence, not emotions. When you are supporting someone or a group of people who claim to be whatever they claim to be, you must ask for evidence of their work, not support with emotions or propaganda. We are doing this and doing that, even though you are not seeing it. No! Ask them. Our number one priority is to safeguard our territory. Our number one priority is to make sure that terrorists do not invade our land. That is our number one priority as a people. Not to allow what is going on in the north and the west to happen in the east. That is our number. That's why Eastern Security Network was formed. Oh yes. And from ESN to BLA, to defend our land and liberate our land from the occupation of the Zoological Republic. So whenever you are supporting any individual or a group of people who call themselves whatever name they want, demand evidence. So long as you are supporting them, demand evidence, not social media propaganda. Oh yes. So let us read in details. As you can see on your screen, I'll be reading from Vanguard News Nigeria. According to their title, they said, gunmen invade Imo community. Residents trapped as sporadic gunfire rages for hours. Rages for hours. That is a problem. Rages for hours. I want you to remember that very word. Rages for hours, because the Janjaweed terrorist police have spoken concerning this very latest development in Imo State. And then when we read their comment, we are going to bring them back on how many hours that the gunshots raged in that very area of the old Imo State. Now let us read in details. Oweri. Residents of Umualuako community in Ehime Mbano local government area of Imo State were thrown into panic Wednesday morning, which is today, as unidentified gunmen invaded the area, unleashing hours of continuous gunfire. They are not unidentified, because we have a video to prove you wrong. They are not unidentified. They have been identified. And they are Fulani herdsmen terrorists. They have been identified. We have a video to prove you wrong. Now let's continue. Sources from the community said the attackers stormed the area at about 5:30 a.m. early this morning, firing indiscriminately and forcing residents to remain indoors in fear and confusion. In fear and confusion. And remember that it raged for hours. Now, that was around 5:30 a.m. As of 10:50 a.m., which is 10 minutes to 11. 10:50 a.m., which is, remember, it started from 5:30 a.m. early in the morning. Now, 10:50 a.m., the sporadic gunshots reportedly persisted. Not be me they talk. I am reading from a Zoo media. So you don't say, Biafra Unite has come with propaganda. No, pay attention. With no confirmed report of casualties at the time of filing this report. The police should please come to our rescue. They started shooting around 5:30 a.m. We are held indoors. We don't know what will happen next. The gunshots are terrifying, a frightened resident told our reporter. Another local added, Umudibia, Umualuako in Ehime Mbano is under attack. The whole place has been surrounded since early morning. People are too scared to go out. People are too scared to go out. A frightened resident is the one talking, probably on telephone. I don't know. Now, confirming the incident, the spokesperson of the Imo State Police Command, ASP Henry Okoye, said the command was aware of the situation and had deployed tactical teams to the area. Now, let us analyze it briefly before we proceed. The police public relations officer, ASP Henry Okoye, Igbo man who knows how to lie very well on behalf of Fulani, said that they have deployed tactical team to stop whatever menace in the area. And this man, Henry Okoye, was talking to Vanguard News, right? Whereas Vanguard News also told us here in this same news that a frightened resident said, as at this moment that they are still shooting. I don't know if you understand the complication. The police said they have sent tactical team to the area, while a resident in that same area who has spoken to Vanguard in the condition of anonymity said as at this moment they are still shooting. So, police public relations officer Henry Okoye, where did you send your so-called tactical team to? Where did you send them to? Where are they? Or have they joined the Fulani terrorists to terrorize the people in the area? You have to come out and tell us, because we know that Nigerian police is nothing other than a terrorist organization. We all know this. Now, we are fully aware of the situation. Oh, you are fully aware. And the command, in synergy with the military and the Department of State Services, DSS, these are all terrorist groups, has taken proactive steps to nip the security threat in the bud. Okoye said, I will show us a video. And then we are going to ask Okoye, where have you and your so-called command been all this while that this thing has been happening in this same area? Now, he further alleged that the attackers were suspected members of the proscribed indigenous people of the AUC. I didn't even see this one on time. You see? He further alleged that the attackers were suspected members of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Ipob, and its armed wing, Eastern Security Network, ESN. You see that? Shame on you, Okoye. When I talk about Igbo, our people, they will start asking me to take it easy, that we are all Igbos. Not every Igbo man is evil. But when I speak like that, I speak with anger because I know what we are doing to ourselves. Actually, Kunu phenomenon at this very struggle, where Fugodi the level of evil, none our midst. Jigoduni phenomenon at this very struggle, where for evil our people can be. Told Kerafaya Okoye Henry Okoye. You are nowhere. Henry Okoye, Olugo nowhere, the capital city of Imo. Where matter already, no, but members of the Eastern Security Network, as you claimed, knowing fully well that we do no longer have ESN. What we have now is BLA, Biafra Liberation Army. But in Olugo nowhere, where Mali already, Nandi na wewe, but so-called proscribed indigenous people of Biafra. Henry Okoye, you were a disgrace to the Igbo nation. Henry Okoye, you were a disgrace. When did you carry out the investigation? When did you carry out the investigation? We have a video here from the same Bano, from the same Himen Bano, the same villages up on Alpha here and at this very news. We have video here where the vigilante youth gather themselves, arm themselves as vigilante groups to confront the Fulani. And here, there you are in Owerri, telling the world, lying to your teeth, lying to your generation. No, ESN. Why the locals who have formed vigilante in their own, capacity made a video just a couple of days ago, not even up to 5 days ago, telling us what Fulanis have done to them and the reason why they are calling for help. And there you are in Owerri, because you are serving Fulani. Shame on you. I never the reason why I'm so pained like this is because I know exactly what is happening in that area. I have on ground information. I have eyewitness information of what is going on in that area. Yes. And today, look at what an Igbo man is doing because you are serving Fulani. Shame on you, Henry Okoye. Tactical units have been deployed to apprehend the suspected members of IPOB/ESN behind the senseless attacks aimed at instilling fear in the minds of the public, he added. You see, shame. Have you ever seen or heard that the so-called ESN or the currently Biafra Liberation Army is attacking innocent Biafrans? Have you ever seen anything like that or heard from the citizens, not from the propagandists? not from the propagandists, not from DOS criminals, not from Nigerian, media or Nigerian politicians. Have you ever, for one single day, heard that members of the Eastern Security Network, the then ESN, or the officers of DLA are attacking innocent citizens? Have you ever heard anything like that before? I'm asking in the comment section. Please, come with evidence. Come with evidence. Not propaganda, come with evidence. There's nothing like that, because Biafra Liberation Army is built on ideology of defending Biafra land and fighting for the freedom of the people of Biafra, not to attack the people. They are not terrorists. These are innocent youths of Biafra, innocent Igbo youths who say we cannot take it anymore. We can no longer take this. We want to be free. They came out to fight for their freedom. They are not terrorists. They are fighting for the freedom of our land, the land of our ancestors. How comes an Igbo man like me sitting down somewhere in Owerri using their name for propaganda because you are serving Fulani? Henry Okoye, I'm just ashamed of you. This thing happened this early morning today. As I'm talking to you, the area is still under panic. So how comes you already know that they are IPOB and the ESM members? How comes you know already? When did you carry out the investigation? 2 residents that have spoken to Vanguard did not mention ESN. They said they don't know who they are. But there you are in Owerri. You already know. When did you carry out the investigation? Can you give us evidence of your investigation before you tell us who they are? I never knew you are so useless and senseless. The development is the latest in a series of violent attacks in Imo State, where communities have come under repeated siege in recent months by armed assailants targeting both civilians and security operatives. This one is for Vanguard. Andy, in conclusion, my attention has been drawn to the idiocy and stupidity of some useless elements. Ngozi na-akwụ ụgwọ na-agalụ Ngozi Ọrabeeze ozi na social media. My attention has been drawn to your stupidity and your idiocy, and I want you to continue. I am watching all of you from the mirror. In my location, I'm watching all of you from the mirror, and I can see how useless you have become. I see the nuisance you are causing on social media. I have no time for you now because I've been engaged with something more important. I'm going to come when your uselessness and your stupidity, your idiocy and your senselessness ends. Your nonchalant attitude on social media ends. So I will start when you finish. I'm watching you people from my mirror here. So thank you, my people. And make it go viral.